So last weekend I attended Appalachian Trail Days Festival in Damascus, Virginia, and it was a really good time. I ended up meeting a lot of new people, seeing a lot of old friends, and I was telling a lot of stories about trail days past. And I thought what I would do is put some of those stories and some of those vintage photos in with this video from 2024, just so people can get an idea of what trail days used to be and what it's like now. And for all 15 of you who clicked on the video, I hope you enjoy it. Greetings from Damascus, Virginia. I'm in Tent City, I can't believe it. And this is home for the next few nights. I'm not completely set up yet, but I'm getting there. But yeah, this is going to be jam-packed by tomorrow. I don't know if I've mentioned before, but I've never actually stayed back here before. There's really been no reason, because I lived here. I could sleep in my own bed. So yeah, it's kind of a new experience. I mean, I've been back here before, but yeah, first time camping. So some of the first trail days camping, before trail days even had a name, was on the lawn of the Place Hostel. And the Place is actually one of the oldest hostels on the AT. And pretty much everybody who came through Damascus would stop in the Place to at least sign the register or to read it and see who had been there before them. So once more people started showing up at the festival, it was obviously necessary to expand the tenting options, and that's when tenting down by the old mill began. So this photo's from 1998. The old mill had not been renovated yet. There's probably only 40 or 50 tents down here. In the foreground you can see the fire pit, and if you can believe it, that's where the drum circle used to be. So just a few years after this photo was taken, the festival grew so big that this small spot couldn't handle all the tents that came in for trail days. There were tents on the post office lawns, residential lawns. Anybody that would allow you to camp on their lawn pretty much had a tent on their lawn. And just a few short years after this photo was taken, Tent City would open up in its current location.
I mean, it looks cool.
Lots of gear talk going on here. Yeah, this is probably the most blue sky we've seen all day, but there's been a really beautiful cloud show here. Just like Bill Bryson, we're taking a walk in the woods. Yeah, this is completely ridiculous, but I love it. I happen to like it already.
I think you're headed the wrong way.
Oh, it's beautiful.
You must tell a joke to enter.
You must
Thorrington.
tell a joke to enter Thorrington.
Yes, big old ball.
Does it have to be a funny joke?
It's got to be a splendid
Just a
joke.
a splendid one, you say?
I do say.
You do say. You did. I heard you. The sun is shining and people are having fun. So this is amusing to me anyway. I'm just a fly on the wall here, just listening to all these conversations, and I'd say 50% of them are about gear, and 25% of them are name dropping about YouTube hikers and I guess well-known hikers. So the woods in Tent City are definitely a sight to see. It's almost like a miniature rainbow gathering back there. There are kitchens everywhere, places to sit down, people have dartboards set up, cornhole, you name it. And there was really nothing like this back in the day. I think the closest thing to this probably would have been the Damascus Island, which I'm going to show you shortly. I'm headed over to Lone Wolf's house because my bicycle is in his shed. It's been in his shed for like 2 years almost, since I moved to Georgia. And he's been kind enough not to complain, so I want to get it out of there, and I've got a way to get ice back to the campground without having to walk. So in years past, trail days, when it was still in its infancy, they used to let people park and camp back here, and you would see campers and tents along this area, along the trail here, and some people even camped up there. Now up these stairs there used to be a bridge, which I think is now dilapidated, but people used to camp on the island, and it got pretty crazy. That was kind of like the noisy camp back when everyone else was down on the river by the old mill. Yeah, they would have drum circles on the island until they were kicked out. sometimes a local would come down and say, hey, it's 3 in the morning, you need to shut up. Yeah, that's it right down there. I don't think they allow any kind of camping on the island anymore. And I'm not sure if there's a bridge or not. Yeah, a little flashback for you. And over on this side, they've had camping back here before as well. Not all the time, but a time or two I remember tents back here. It's a dog park now. And they were just finishing this up right before I moved. So sadly, Garvey never got to go to it, unfortunately, but it's kind of nice actually. Did a pretty good job. And over here, we have the site of many, many trail days. So I no longer remember how I met her, but there was a woman named Tara renting this house, and she offered to let me and a few other people camp there in her yard that year. And you can see our camp with the trestle in the background. And this is my buddy Ledge, who actually took a lot of the parade photos that you're about to see. And nothing's changed. I'm still pitching tarps. So this is a kayak that I painted for a guy who was camping with us. I believe his name was Britt. And this is all done with hand paints, freehand. The guitar I have was a cheap guitar that I bought for, I think, $40 at a pawn shop in Rutland, Vermont. So we were the only 3 camped down there that year. I want to say it was 2000 or 2001. And the very next year, Hobo Central moved its camp down here. And for the next 15 or 20 years, there would always be tents in this yard during trail days. I think I've camped in that yard at least a half a dozen times. Various owners of the property, various tenants. Dennett Dwyer was the last person who owned this house here. These trees weren't quite as grown up, but he would always have live music over there at that shed, and people would kind of stand up here on the trestle and watch the music. And of course the yard would be just jam full of tents. It was its own little tent city, but whoever has it now does not carry on that tradition, unfortunately. But what we're going to do is go down this way. Privy's been here forever too. I've used it once or twice. I don't know if Dennett put that there or if it was somebody else, but yeah, it's pretty obvious it's been there for a while. It is Friday afternoon, and we're quite full, pretty much surrounded by tents. And this place is jam-packed. Yeah, if it weren't for the guy lines I have right here, you can see I've got them marked with ginger ale cans so people don't trip over the guy lines. If it weren't for that, I think this place would be full of tents right here. This is the only kind of open area.
Oh, that's fun. Janelle can't pee comfortably until
Well, this is my view tonight, Friday evening, at the quieter campsite. It's raining again. It's been on and off pretty much since I got here, but I'm not going to let it ruin my fun. So it pretty much ended up raining all day on Saturday. I did actually take a walk over to the vendor area, but there were so many people down there, it was ridiculous. It was just overwhelming. Until somebody comes up with a force field tent or dehydrated beer, there's nothing they can show me that's going to wow me down at the gear tents. So that's that. And on the way back from the vendor area, of course, it started raining again. So I got back to my tent, pretty much started the stove, made something to eat, and then fell asleep afterwards. It's definitely wet enough out here to justify having this stove. Everybody else out there is absolutely soaked. It's rained like once an hour every hour since I've got here. It seems that way anyway. But yeah, I might have to go out and get some more firewood for this evening because I'm about out. And speak of the rain, here it comes again. So like I said before, I pretty much slept through the entire parade. I have no regrets. If you want to see this year's parade, I'm quite certain there's plenty of footage all over YouTube. But what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to flash you back to 1998 and I'm going to show you some vintage parade photos, which I really think you're going to enjoy. So here we see a few people lining up in front of Dots Inn getting ready for the parade. And the guy in the wolf suit, I believe his name was Waya, and he was promoting the reintroduction of red wolves into the Smokies, I believe. And he was giving away bumper stickers that read, "Rednecks for Red Wolves." So if you ever see one of those stickers, it's a collector's item. The woman in this picture thought that she was going to walk in the Trail Days parade topless. And the Washington County Sheriff's Department thought otherwise. Not too long after this photo was taken, she was waving from the back of a sheriff's car. And check out the gas prices at Cowboys. So I'm not going to do too much more commentary here, and I'm not going to name drop, but I will say there are some well-known and legendary faces in some of these photos. And if you see yourself in any of these photos, make sure you leave a comment below. So in conclusion, I had a really good time this year at Trail Days, and I wouldn't say Trail Days now is better or worse than it used to be. It's just different. Obviously, it's a lot bigger. It doesn't have the intimacy of a small gathering like it used to. There were people camped around me that I never even got to have a conversation with, never knew their names. And that wasn't the case in the old days. But there are things that are good about this whole situation. You see all these tents out here? These people are not sitting at home in front of their television sets. They're getting out, enjoying Mother Nature, enjoying the outdoors. And I think that's a positive thing. Because when I started backpacking back in high school, I could count the amount of people who were into hiking and backpacking on one hand. And now the number has grown. A lot more people are getting into it, and I think that's a positive thing. Of course, with numbers, the more people you have, the more bad apples you have also. But I think in general, the hiking community is a very tight community, a very close-knit community that watches out for one another. And usually when the problems occur, at least in my experience anyway, they come from outside of the hiking community. That goes for trail days or incidents on the trail. Very few people in the community are bad people, and you really have to do something horrible to be taken out of the community or shunned, if you will. But yeah, all in all, a positive experience. Would I do it again? Absolutely. Trail Days 2025, God willing, I will be there. And in the meantime, I hope that you all, wherever you are following a path of heart.